Welcome to SJS Arts. So today I'm gonna talk about the year 1971 for cinema because I think this is one of the greatest years in cinema history. So many great films came out this year. So you might remember like a year ago I did a video about my favorite year in cinema history, which is 1966. And I think in that video I talked about how I might do similar type of videos in the future where I maybe highlight one year and show you the films that I have seen from that year. And yeah, and I of course also did the years in cinema history video series where I went through all the years, but I think I might make this like a on and off video series where I just highlight one year in every video, and this series will start with these years that I think are some of the great years in cinema history. Yeah. So I have seen 53 films from 1971, and of course the 70s in general is a decade that people often praise for cinema, especially for American cinema. But if you look at the films here that I've rated the highest, many of them are from different countries, not just from America. Yeah, but this is uh, sorted by like the films that I have rated the highest. So you see that all the five-star films in the top row, and there are so many five-star films from this year. So let's just go through them. And yeah, again, these videos won't be like very substantive. They are just kind of to showcase you films and give you some quick recommendations and show you what I think are the best years. But I won't offer any kind of very serious commentary here or anything like that. Yeah. But this is a very underrated film, underseen film called Confessions Among Actresses by Kichu Yoshida, one of my favorite directors who I champion oftentimes. And yeah, this is one of Yoshida's best films. And this at least used to be in the Rare Film website that I often talk about, so you can watch it through that way. But it's kind of this mix of documentary and fiction. It's kind of in terms of genre, obviously it has that documentary, but also kind of horror, thriller elements. And yeah, it has even kind of Lynchian vibes and everything. So it's a very interesting, weird, odd, unique film. Yeah, but we try to recommend it. Then this one, probably many of you have seen. It's A Touch of Zen by King Hu. I really like King Hu, but I've only seen a couple of his films. But this is my favorite of his, which is a very stereotypical King Hu favorite, I guess. But it's this 3 hour wuxia epic that just flows by, and it's just so entertaining, so beautiful, such a great movie. Yeah. Then we have Pink Narcissus, which is an experimental gay film by James Bidgood, one of my favorite gay films. It has that beautiful queer aesthetic that is like my aesthetic. So yeah, I love this film, and this is also on the Rare Film website. Yeah, so I would recommend it to queer people at least. Yeah. Then we have Bresson's Four Nights of a Dreamer, which to me is one of Bresson's best films. It's one of his latest films. Okay, his last film is L'Argent in the early 80s, but this is a late period film as well, and to me it's just one of his best. Yeah, I need to really need to watch this again. This one I've only seen once. Yeah, but more people need to see this one, I think. Then we have the Jacques Rivette masterpiece, the incredibly long film divided into a few episodes. It's called Out One. Yeah, this film is definitely one of the most challenging films I've ever watched. It's so incredibly slow. Like it starts with these theater rehearsal scenes that really don't go anywhere, and they just take on and on and on and on. They are so long. But if you stick to the film, you're gonna see how it kind of piece by piece gets more and more interesting, and more things start to happen. And the Jean-Pierre Lude character in this is very interesting. This is like, is it 13 or 14 hours long? And I watched it in two days or 2 nights. So yeah, was a great experience, but there are Jacques Rivette films that I like more than this, but I think it's understandable that this is often considered to be his masterpiece or one of his masterpieces. I think it's often either this or Celine and Julie go both in. Then we have the second part of the Buddhist trilogy by Akio Isoji, Mandara. This might be my favorite of the trilogy. It's either this one or the first one called This Transient Life. But this is such a weird film, such an experimental film, very political film, even quite violent and intense film. It's hard to kind of recommend this to people because it kind of doesn't have any kind of typical filmmaking elements to it. It just says that fuck you to all the kind of traditional filmmaking styles and does a completely new thing, takes filmmaking into a completely different direction. So it's definitely not for everybody. But if you like weird political Japanese films, watch this one. It's one of the pinnacles of Japanese New Wave. Then we have The Emigrants by Jan Troell. Great Swedish film. The New Land is also wonderful. But it's about these Swedish people wanting to move to America. And yeah, they have Leif Ullman and Max von Sydow here, so you might mistake the film to be a Ingmar Bergman film, but it's not that. But even though it kind of feels like a Bergman film in many ways, but these are such amazing films and kind of interesting portrayals of these important historical events as well. Uh, then we have Throw Away Your Books, Rally in the Streets by Shuji Terayama, one of the big Japanese new wave masterpieces, and I would recommend this as an entry point to Terayama, as it isn't quite as crazy aesthetically as some of his other films like Pastoral to Die in the Country or Farewell to the Ark. Well, Farewell to the Ark, it's not maybe as crazy aesthetically as Pastoral to Die in the Country. In terms of subject matter, it's definitely quite crazy, but I think this would be a good entry point to his work and very good entry point to Japanese new wave as well, as it has those kind of young people, it shows kind of political radicalism and these types of common themes of this movement in cinema history. Yeah, and I need to watch this one again myself. I've watched the other two Terayama films a couple of times that I mentioned, but this one I've only seen once, so it's due for a rewatch. Yeah, and I believe that this was the first one I also watched myself. Then a Walkabout, in my opinion, Nicholas Rogue's best film, or at least my personal favorite. Seen it a couple of times, once in the cinema and once on Blu-ray, and it's just one of those incredible experiences. Aesthetically, so beautiful, thematically very interesting. It explores this kind of modernism and tradition, uh, battle, and also the nature versus city life and these types of things. And also it explores human connection as we see these young kids meeting this Aboriginal guy and how they kind of get to know each other and get to kind of live together even though they are from such different backgrounds. So there is lots of things going on here in the film. Then we have Clockwork Orange, one of my favorite Kubricks. I've seen this many times. Love the film, also love the novel. Then we have The Devils, which is one of my like top 30 films of all time. Seen it three times and it's shocking, it's funny, it's a great critique of certain types of Christians and the church, and Urbain Grandier, played by Oliver Reed, is one of my favorite characters. He's at first he's kind of an asshole, but then you start to root for him when all the other characters turn against him. And I think that's one of my favorite things about the film. And then there's this side character called Father Barr, which is one of my favorite characters as well. He's this kind of really fanatical, religious person, and yeah, the priest obviously Father Barr, but he's just so intense as a character. Yeah. Then another film about religion. It's Masahiro Shinoda's Silence. That's an adaptation of the Shusaku Endo novel. But apparently, my viewer Peaches really loves the novel, but he hasn't seen this adaptation of the novel. But yeah, I want to read the book. But yeah, one wonderful film, quite brutal. I haven't seen the Scorsese version, but it's far for me to imagine that it would be better than this Shinoda version, but you never know. Yeah. Then we have one of the Rossellini philosophy films. It's Socrates, I Know Nothing. Yeah, this was absolutely wonderful. We just see the trial for Socrates' life in the film, and then before that we see Socrates like having conversation with his students and with other people, and it's very interesting. There isn't that many things happening here, and aesthetically it's very minimalist and kind of naturalistic. But it's just a wonderful film, and even with the minimalism, it's such a riveting film. I think, especially if you are interested in these philosophical figures like Socrates, and of course he made a film about Pascal, which is absolutely wonderful as well. Yeah, great movie. Then we have Law for Shrelem, an Hungarian classic film, really wonderful. I have the second run Blu-ray, so that's how I watched it, and yeah, great movie. Then we have a famous Louis Malle film, Murmur of the Heart, really great. One of the best Louis Malle films in my opinion. Then we have a great Cassavetes film. Hopefully, Criterion will release this at some point, but it's Mini and Moscovich. Another great performance by Gina Rowlands and great film otherwise too. And then we have a film about the famous painter Goya. So this is Goya or the Hard Way to Enlightenment. Very quite unknown film, but a beautiful film. Probably very hard to track down. I don't know whether this has been released or whether it's streaming in any official way at the moment, but yeah, one to look out for. Then we have um, Toshio Matsumoto's Demons, which is almost as good as Matsumoto's Funeral Parade of Roses. This is a very bleak film, aesthetically very interesting, great black and white cinematography, wonderful film. Then we have the Decameron, which is actually currently my favorite Pasolini film. I don't necessarily think it's the best Pasolini film that I have seen, but it's my personal favorite as it makes me laugh so hard. There's this, it's divided into different vignettes, just like the Decameron by by Boccaccio. Yeah, but yeah, there's this fun vignette with horny nuns, and it just makes me laugh so hard. And I really appreciate Pasolini for doing a film like this and really going hard against Christians and making fun of them. Yeah, The Merchant of Four Seasons, an underrated Fassbinder film. Absolutely love this one. It's about this male character, definitely toxic masculinity. He has these awful anger issues, but then we find through like flashbacks and stuff that there's a reason why he is this way, and it's a good character exploration. It's also a very entertaining movie, I would say, very short movie. Yeah, and to me, it's one of his best, even though then it's maybe not considered to be one of his best. Punishment Park is a very great Peter Watkins film. And Peter Watkins, like you can see in this film, was someone who could kind of take a quote unquote more objective side that he didn't just criticize one thing, but he was able to critically show different points of view. And yeah, so he feels like a very balanced director in that way. Yeah. Third Part of the Night is a very interesting Zulawski film, or just released on Blu-ray recently. Not among my favorites by him, but definitely a great movie. Then we have Elaine May's A New Leaf, which is a film that I really enjoy. It's a really fun story about this really weird relationship that starts emotionally from a very different place than where it ends up in the end. Yeah, but a really fun movie. The Last Picture Show is such a great movie by Peter Bogdanovich. I saw this one in the cinema in London actually and haven't seen it since, so need to rewatch it as much of it has escaped my mind, sadly. Harold and Maude is such a great Hal Aspie film. Fun, weird relationships here as well. Then Sunday, Bloody Sunday, actually just watched uh, this January. Yeah, one of the first films that I've watched this year. This a depiction of bisexuality in early 1970s. Although in the end, there's not much discussion like what bisexuality is or anything like that, but it just shows this kind of love triangle in the film. And yeah, I like this film, but and it's definitely a good movie, but I didn't necessarily connect to it in a kind of personal way or anything like that. But it was a very interesting movie and powerful movie in some moments. Yeah, Luminous Procuress is a weird film, and it's kind of like a American Satiricon in a way. It's really weird, but I really enjoy this one. Mon Oncle Antoine, good movie. WR, Mysteries of the Organism, weird movie, but good. Then we have Visconti's Death in Venice, which is an adaptation of a Thomas Mann novel, which I unfortunately haven't read. I haven't read any Thomas Mann, but I have The Magic Mountain on my shelf, and I'm looking forward to reading it at some point, but it's a fairly long book and apparently quite challenging, so I'm waiting for a right moment, and maybe Death in Venice would actually be a better starting point as I believe it's way shorter and yeah. But yeah, this aesthetically such a beautiful movie. It feels quite distant in many ways and maybe hard to relate to in a way, but aesthetically very beautiful movie. I'm looking forward to watching this again at some point. Then we have McCabe and Mrs. Miller. Not one of my favorite Altmans, just not my cup of tea necessarily, but I can tell it's a great movie still. Yeah. The French Connection, The Big Friedkin classic. A good movie, but not necessarily the type of thing that I love. Yeah. Same with The Vanishing Point. Yeah. Same with Waking Fright. All good movies, but not something I would consider favorites. Then we have Herzog's Land of Silence and Darkness. Interesting documentary. Beware of a Holy Whore is one of my least favorite Fassbinders. This was one that I just couldn't like get the point of it, so I think it might be kind of my fault and not the film's fault. Why I didn't like it that much. But I'm gonna watch it again at some point in the future, and maybe I will like it more, and maybe I'll get it. Then Two Lane Blacktop is a big classic, but not necessarily my cup of tea that much, but still pretty good. This one I was remember being really excited about, Daughters of Darkness, but yeah, it was pretty good. Don't remember that much about it. Handicapped Future, Straw Dogs is a big classic, but I guess Peckinpah isn't like my type of director in a way that I don't think there's any of his films on my favorites list. Yeah, Fata Morgana, interesting Herzog film. I think this was one of the first Herzog films I ever watched. And Sakura, I mean, it's a fun Leone film, but I like his other films more, or most of the other films more. Four Flies on Grey Velvet, interesting Argento movie. Trinity is still my name. Like I remember watching these Trinity films like when I was a kid because my father was a fan, and I haven't seen them since, but I remember enjoying them a lot. All the crazy fight scenes and stuff. Shaft, I don't really like this movie that much, but I love the soundtrack. I was actually just listening to the soundtrack yesterday, I think, or the day before. So, and I love the soundtrack and Isaac Hayes. Yeah, what a legendary soundtrack and what a legendary soul person Isaac Hayes is. So, then the Big Boss. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's just the name reminded me of this Sopranos scene where we have the feels like celebration and they sing like the big boss song. Like I've had that scene stuck in my head in the past days for some reason. So yeah. But anyway, fun Bruce Lee movie. Yeah. Then is another Terayama film, Emperor Tomato Ketchup, which is a absolutely crazy experimental film. Not very enjoyable to be honest, but interesting. Song of the Horse is one of Kurosawa's worst films. Then we have The War of Young Gang Bond, Diamonds Are Forever. Yeah, I'm not a Bond fan. Metastasis, Dirty Harry. It's been such a long time since I watched it that I don't remember whether I like it or not. Then Duel is actually a Spielberg film that I at least used to like, but I haven't seen it in such a long time. These are the films I've seen from 1971, but I'll also show you some of the others that came out this year. So I actually haven't seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which is a pretty big blind spot, I guess, but even that came out this year. Clue, this film that many people love, that came out this year. This is the George Lucas film, THX 1138, which apparently at least some people really love, like my friend Nerdlist really loves this one. Um, Get Carter is a big classic that came out this year. Bay of Blood is a Charlo that came out this year. Macbeth. Yeah, so there are lots of other films that are probably really good that came out this year too. The Andromeda Strain, uh, Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. So lots of stuff, lots of stuff. Yeah, even this one, Working Class Goes to Heaven, which I'm really excited to watch. Yeah, the last movie, heard good things about that. Rillington Place. Yeah, so lots more to still check out this from this year, and this year will probably keep getting better the more I watch from it. But at this moment, this might actually be my second favorite year in cinema history, although it's hard to say. There are other great films, but 1966 will probably always be my favorite, unless something very drastic happens. But we'll see where this video series will go. I might do something like this for music too at some point, although I want to kind of go through my favorite albums first, or at least most of them, before I start doing a thing like that. So we'll see. But anyway, thanks for watching this video. Let me know what you think of this year or any of these films, or if you have any recommendations for 1971, or you can also let me know what you think are some of the best years in cinema history. But anyway, thanks for watching. Don't drink Coke at all. Sayonara and arigato gozaimashita.